This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin Freakin.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol, live. It's a freaking Wednesday, and it's a Thanksgiving Eve. I know that doesn't mean anything to Warlord over there in the UK. Okay, I will play the video you sent me earlier. You said is the political video of the year. Yes, it's everybody's favorite failed comedian, your friendly neighborhood news gimp. Good evening, DJ Dub, clinically, Warlord. So glad to see you, all you fine peeps over on YouTube. Freedom, good evening. I've got this dude, some boomer-ass, stupid motherfucker, all over my Facebook. He keeps calling me a failed comedian because he watched a stand-up clip from me like 10 years ago. Like, buddy, I haven't done stand-up comedy in about 10 years. It was like 2016. Technically, I did one during COVID. I was on Echoplex Media's New Year's Eve celebration and did a stand-up set. Think I impressed. I don't think producer Dave was expecting me to. I mean, I may not be the funniest, but I put on a fucking show. I'm entertaining. You can't deny that. And I'm on point. Like, all my shit is very well rehearsed. And I've actually been doing. I've got a. It's half old material, half new material. I've been doing in the shower sometimes. I've been working it out. One of these days, I might go hit up an open mic again and try out some material. But the reason I did stand up in the first place was because I got fired from the radio station because they didn't like my views. I got cancel cultured. So I started going and doing stand-up comedy. And then I got banned from doing stand-up comedy in several of the venues. DJ Dub also likes to work it out in the shower sometimes. Probably deserved. That you go to the Discord, there's a whole section, the Cancel Justin section, nothing but clips and screen grabs of all the racist shit I've said, all the bigoted things I've said. Some of them out of context and some of them aren't. What can I say? I've made my living. The fuck is wrong with me tonight? I've made my living as an edgelord, as a shock jock they call me. Because remember, I come from radio. I walked on stage the first time I ever did stand-up comedy and fucking nailed it. I'm not gonna say I killed it. I'm not gonna say like I fucking had the crowd rolling, but like I nailed it. I did not seem like it was which it was not my first time ever being on stage. I was a theater kid. And I've been on the radio for over 20 years now. God, I'm old. Over 20 years. Jesus. All right. I've decided what I'm doing for Thanksgiving. And first we're going to do some whippets. Oh, yeah, that's good shit. I'm banned from what? I'm still banned from everywhere. I'm banned on Facebook right now. That pisses me off. I had been so good. And, like, I won all my appeals, but for some reason I still got banned, and it's bullshit. It was like 30 days. One of I did not win the one for terrorism. Apparently you can't even appeal when you get accused of supporting terrorism or whatever. I don't even know. Probably something where I just criticized Israel. They brainwashed you? It really do be like that. I just noticed the Matt Walsh on his foot. Instead of Patrick Duffy for a leg, he's got sweet baby Matt Walsh. God damn. Matt Walsh is right a few times a day, right? A broken clock is right 2 times a day. Matt Walsh is right occasionally.
JustinFREAKIN is a formidable voice in the culture.
Who watches CNN, Warlord? I know that's a huge thing with right wingers. They're like, you watch CNN, you get all your information from CNN. Nobody fucking watches CNN. I like the dude's like fucking licking a boot. He's got a blue check for a head. Tesla, Q, Louder with Crowder. Cat turd. There's even a cat turd represented. Maybe that's Dilbert. Oh, shut up, Warlord. All right, so tomorrow, I'm going to come on at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to do 4 p.m. Eastern. It's only going to be on Kick and D Live. We're going to do Kick and D Live tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to watch old, why are we canceling me this time? I kind of am being canceled. I'll get to that here in a second. We're going to watch old television specials, Thanksgiving television specials. I got a whole folder of shit. Bob's Burgers, WKRP in Cincinnati. Those are a couple of the really notable Thanksgiving specials. I'm sure I've got an SNL that has Thanksgiving skits. So we're going to do Thanksgiving dinner. If you guys have nowhere else to be, if you've already done Thanksgiving with your family, whatever, you want to kick back and you want to watch some, I'm gonna cook. I'll have my dinner on stream. I don't usually eat on stream. I'm gonna bring the couch over here to where I'm watching the TV from the couch. Sit on the couch. We're gonna watch old television specials. 4 or 5 hours. We'll go through when I'm usually on for the Troll Patrol. I'll keep you entertained. If you've got nowhere else to be, if you've got no family or Friendsgiving to attend to, come in here, hang out with us, watch some Thanksgiving television specials. Now, unfortunately, this will be the last Troll Patrol. I'm going to have to go on a little hiatus for a couple weeks. So Justin got himself in a little bit of a situation. Justin's going to have to go look for another place to live. It's possible somebody will be like, cancel Justin too. It's possible somebody will be like, hey Justin, do some work for me. Here's $1,500 in the next like day or two. And then I'll be like, okay. And then all my problems are solved. But I'm not counting on that happening. I thought I had it covered, but I've had 2 or 3 different clients fucking stiff me. And like, if this dude does not pay me, and it doesn't look like he's going to, he's a semi-famous TikToker. He has a following. He has like 500,000 followers on TikTok. I'm gonna play the video I did for him. I'm gonna show the emails, and I'm gonna try to clout chase off of him. It's just a couple $100, but I've got a couple of different fucking clients that haven't paid me. So $1,500 may drop in my lap in a day or two, but Kitties and I are gonna have to go, and I think I've got a good place to land, and the Kitties are gonna like it. I am a little bitch. I'll be honest with you, and I said it here on the stream several times that I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling right. I got in a really depressive state, and a lot of it had to do with losing my Twitch. Ironically, I would have made more than enough money to cover all the bills if I still had Twitch, but that's neither here nor there. It was more the fact that I don't really have a way of growing now. I've lost subscribers on YouTube. We were growing on Twitch. Like daily we were getting 4 or 5 people at least, and I was winning over new fans. We were starting to have, I don't know if it was all on Twitch, but I know that whatever platforms I was on, I was having like 50 people at a time. I was feeling good about where I was going, and now it's just been like 6 months of, I don't want to call it stagnation. I love you guys. And we have added a few new people, but like, it's been a real kick in the balls for me. And I've been in kind of a depressive state over it. I've also, like, it's been like a midlife crisis. I don't know. It's not that I can sit down and make fucking money easily. It's just like I have to get my ass in gear and do it. If I get depressive and shit, I don't feel like doing it. I can barely even concentrate on doing this shit that I actually like doing, let alone like yesterday or day before yesterday, I had to take this dude's dance class, and it dude looks like he's good at dance, and he appears like he's gonna be a long-term client for me. But like I took his dance class footage and interspersed it into like this country music video. I made a animated demo of a security company in Australia. I did a infotainment kind of video about prostate health. I don't like doing that shit. It just, yeah, meat cakes. It's a real malaise. It's a real just. And clinically, good evening. So glad to see you. So glad to see you. And I genuinely mean that. I love you guys. I've said it several times. Like, I can be feeling down and I get on here and doing this, just it lights me up. I don't... Midlife crisis. I feel like I should be somewhere else. Okay, here's it. David Letterman was on Stephen Colbert as a guest on like Monday night. Just saw it earlier today. And I grew up idolizing David Letterman. I love me some Stephen Colbert. I don't watch The Late Show the way I did every fucking... One time when I was in college the first time, back in like 2002, I went out, I got high, I came back in, I had some munchies, I'm watching David Letterman on the TV, and a girl called me, and she was a booty call, and I'm like, oh, I just got settled in to watch some David Letterman. I turned her down. That's how big of a David Letterman fan I was. So, like, I'm seeing Dave on there with Stephen Colbert, and it makes me a little emotional. I got a little teary-eyed by the end because, like, Dave was fucking hilarious. And it was like 4 segments. He was like all the guest segments. And thank you to Colbert for doing that. It was Dave's first time in the Ed Sullivan Theater, and it reminded me that, like, I wanted to be David Letterman. And, like, honest to God, like, my goal in life probably should have been to host The Late Show. And fuck, if I had actually worked towards it and not pissed off for several years of my life, I could have possibly achieved it. And I started thinking about, like, maybe that's what I need to work towards now, you know? Get big enough doing the Troll Patrol that I could be offered a contract to host The Late Show. But let's face it, that's probably not gonna happen. I would have needed to be writing for a TV show already in my 30s in order to make that happen. So, it kind of made me a little sad. I like what I do. I'm successful at what I do. When I do it, that's the thing. I do really good work. Battle of Blossom, good evening. Merry Christmas to you. Oh, wait a minute. It's Thanksgiving. So tomorrow, 4 o'clock, we're doing Thanksgiving specials. I'm going to have Thanksgiving dinner with you guys. If you don't have family, Friendsgiving to tend to. Warlord, you're British. You don't do the Thanksgiving. I expect you here. But then again, why would you want to watch American television Thanksgiving specials? I love that Battle of Possum comes in here and talks to me like it's like one-on-one, like he would talk to me if he was video chatting me. As if anybody has any idea what you're talking about. But I do. He got the new WWE 2K game. I've always found that amusing that you do that. And like, because you've done it from the beginning. It's like you're just talking to me. You'll go in and be like, fuck, I've been doing homework. I had some of that pumpkin pie last night and it wasn't very good. I fucked up. I shouldn't have got the Kroger Bakery pumpkin pie. I should have spent the extra $3 or $4 and got the Marie Calendar fucking pumpkin pie. I'm an idiot. Yes, cancel Justin again. Shit, it's almost 8:20 and I haven't started with the news yet. Also, news gimp Marie Calendar makes the fucking best goddamn pies. Any of them are amazing. What you say? Fuck the news, but it's your kind of news night, man. Like Fox keeps calling it a terrorist attack, but I haven't seen anybody else call it a terrorist attack, and I don't exactly know what happened. I'm not a pre-watch Andy. I haven't watched it yet, but we've apparently got footage of the car exploding. I think I've got multiple different angles of the car exploding. Of course, I'm talking about the one or two cars exploded in Niagara earlier today. Fox News calling it a terrorist attack. I have not seen any other outlet refer to it as that. We'll find out when we get there. I'll give you an update on the rescue efforts in India to recover miners that were trapped inside. Were they really miners? They were construction workers that were working on a tunnel. Is that mining? 40 people trapped in a tunnel in India. They've been in there for what? 10 days now? It was 8 days when we covered it a couple of days ago. They've got communications, they've got food and water, they've got a way to send them supplies through a pipe, so they are keeping them alive. However, so there's not any chance of anybody like getting all cannibal on each other. Unfortunately, are we on the verge of another pandemic? This one kind of flying under the radar, but there is a eerily similar to the way this started popping up in 2019. Chinese hospitals are overrun with children sick from a type of pneumonia. Mysterious illness, they're calling it. Israel, Hamas have apparently reached a deal. We're going to see a ceasefire and a release of hostages. Hopefully, we're holding out hope here. An Israeli history teacher was arrested for something they posted on Facebook. The insane amount of money a donor from AIPAC offered to a guy who was running for state senate to challenge Rashida Tlaib for her congressional seat. Jill Stein talking about the end of the duopoly, the two-party system. A Republican pulls out a surprise win in Charleston, South Carolina, home of the Charleston. New audio illuminates some of Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House's views. A January 6th defendant was found guilty, and the judge calling his sovereign citizen's defense Gobbledygook. Gobbledygook. That is a direct quote. Based man in New York shot his apartment super. I believe he has been arrested. We'll find out. It is the 60th. Is it 60? 60th anniversary of the JFK assassination. Got a couple different rundowns, including a first-hand account from an FBI agent who was on the scene. On the eve of Thanksgiving, conservatives are suing Macy's. Conservatives suing the Macy's Corporation just a day before their big parade. Apparently starting a half hour earlier, we found out. Sarah Huckabee Sanders pardoned some turkeys while denying clemency for a wrongly imprisoned man. Good job, Sarah. Go over some Thanksgiving myths and say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. Daryl Hall has filed for a restraining order against John Oates. If you are a longtime viewer of the Troll Patrol, you know my affinity for the 80s icons. Hall and Oates. I have a feeling we're not going to get through this stream without me calling the Hall and Oates helpline, because I have a feeling I'm going to need some help when we get to that story. But we're going to start off tonight. Warlord says it is the political video of the year, which is saying something, because goddamn, it's been a hell of a year. Oh, I can't go for that, no. God damn it. Richard, good evening. Is Oates going to be hiding in a bush with his private eyes? They're watching you. Go ahead and be thinking of which song you want to hear when we do the Colin Oates helpline. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak taking questions during the Prime Minister's questions that happened, I assume, this morning. This afternoon, if you are in Europe. Takes place at noon on Wednesdays. I'm going in cold. We're going in raw here, guys. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what we're getting ready to see. I can't introduce it to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Why are 34% of children in my constituency living in poverty?
Yeah.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's this government that has ensured that across our country 1.7 million fewer people are living in poverty as a result of the actions of this government. Yes, that is true, Mr. Speaker. Not only that, hundreds of thousands fewer children are living in poverty, and income inequality is at a lower level than we inherited from the party opposite. But, Mr. Speaker, we don't want any child to grow up in poverty, and the best way to make sure that that happens is to ensure that they do not grow up in a workless household. And that is why the right strategy is to ensure that we provide as many children with the opportunity to grow up with parents in work. And because of the actions of previous governments, several 100,000 more families are in that.
Got it. Durham Henry. Thank you very much, Mr.
What did I miss? I'm not sure. He said 1.7 million fewer people are living in poverty. As he sits down.
Several 100,000 more families are in that.
Got it. Durham Henry. Thank you.
Durham Henry? What is that? Some sort of? Oh, someone says shithole. Warlord, we've in the last year we've seen like a woman almost get assassinated in the gun jam. We watched the whole Mike Johnson fiasco and Kevin McCarthy getting ousted. The fight that almost broke out when Kevin McCarthy became speaker. Like, it's been an eventful year. And what language are they speaking? Speak fucking English, bitches. I don't think that is the political video of the year. I love you very much, but you just soiled your reputation with that one. Well, let me scroll through my clips on on YouTube, and I can tell you several other videos that outrank that. The year that was over here. Here, you can scroll with me. Oh no! Now you've lost your clip privileges. Yeah, just the newest one, Cardi B talking about Biden. The black socks and spoons. Come the fuck on. Political video of the year. The MAGA we of the world. We're just in the last month. The dead Russian admiral. Like it's been an insane year. And you're like, this is the political video of the year. What's wrong with you? Russia declaring war on the moon. Rudy Giuliani's a boob guy. Trump is like peeing your pants. The video where Trump walks out to the some folks will go to prison. We're just in the last like 3 months. All of George Santos, the entirety of George Santos. The political video of the year. Cancel Warlord. Everybody cancel Warlord. Jelly. The moon does need to be dealt with. There's a guy on Twitter that like wants to declare war on the moon, and it's hilarious. Moon up there with its smug aura mocks me. Anyway, let's get serious because we could be on the verge of a repeat of 2020. Mystery child pneumonia outbreak reported in China hospitals. Alert issued over reported epidemic of undiagnosed pneumonia among Chinese children. They've broke out the hazmat suits, or who knows, they may have never ditched the hazmat suits. Chinese hospitals have been overwhelmed with sick children as an outbreak of pneumonia escalates in cities across the country, including Beijing. ProMed, a large publicly available surveillance system which monitors human and animal disease outbreaks worldwide, issued a notification. Like fucking COVID's still spreading all over this country. The dude I did the dance for, the dance video for, like he messaged me today, was like, I have COVID, I'll approve your payment tomorrow. And it's like, if you're messaging me, why can't you just hit approve my payment? Quesadilla, good evening. There's a ProMed alert in late December 2019 that brought a mystery virus later named SARS-CoV-2 to the attention of many doctors and scientists, including senior officials at the World Health Organization. The latest post, based on a report from the Taiwanese outlet FTV News, said that hospitals in the capital Beijing and Liaoning, almost 500 miles northeast, were both struggling amid an influx of children sick with pneumonia. Many are hospitalized. Mr. Wei, a Beijing citizen, told FTV News they don't cough and have no symptoms. They just have a high temperature. Many develop pulmonary nodules. An editor's note, ProMed said this report suggests a widespread outbreak of an undiagnosed respiratory illness. It is not at all clear when the outbreak started, as it would be unusual for so many children to be affected so quickly. The report does not say that any adults were affected, suggesting some exposure at schools. The alert added that more definitive information is needed to determine the cause and scope. However, the outbreak could be linked to Mycoplasma pneumoniae, also known as walking pneumonia, which is reportedly surging as China enters its first winter without its stringent COVID-19 lockdown in place. In other countries, including the UK and US, They saw similar surges in diseases such as RSV and flu once pandemic restrictions were lifted, as years of suppressed circulation hit immunity among the population. One to keep an eye on. Eerily similar time frame. This was right about the time we started seeing reports of COVID in 2019. Right around the same time, which the start of winter. Hey, I've been worried about the bird flu being transmitted from avians to humans. I licked a human just a couple weeks ago. Like, I feel good. Everybody else I know has had COVID recently. I'm okay. I probably, like, I didn't even think about it when I went out for Halloween, the weekend before Halloween. I was around so many fucking people. I hadn't had a booster shot. You know, like, fucking, I've been sitting in here. I have people come over. I have company over every week or two. I'm not isolated, guys. I have friends. So, Puzzle Bitch is excited at the notion of getting me living with him for another week or two. Loves it when I cook. But I mean, I licked a human that night. That happened. That's the first time I ever licked somebody's asshole before I licked their pussy. That was a new one to me.
You live in sexual anarchy?
I'd said it to her though before, like she knew I was into it. It's over on the counter over here, just whoop. Because she had a big old ass. Oh my God. Sorry. But those kinds of excursions. There isn't an incursion. It was a quickie, so it was just an incursion. Call back to last night. Those kinds of excursions don't happen to me very often anymore. I need to be in here concentrating on my fucking business, clearly. Doing my work. Also, I feel a responsibility. We gotta find out what that news be doing over here. New video shows 41 construction workers trapped in a tunnel in India. Video from inside the tunnel.
Tonight, a glimmer of hope for the 41 construction workers trapped in a collapsed tunnel 3 miles into the Indian Himalayan mountains. Authorities releasing heart-wrenching footage of their first visual contact with the men after more than a week of grueling rescue efforts. About a dozen people can be seen throughout the footage. And an official can be heard telling the men, "We will reach you all soon. Don't worry." According to a government spokesperson, food has been delivered to the trapped workers through a small pipe constructed by rescuers, and oxygen is being delivered through a second one. Heavy machinery and international teams have been brought to the remote area to help construct a larger pipe that would be wide enough for the workers to crawl out. But first, teams have to drill through 195 feet of debris. On Friday, stopped after a machine broke down and rescuers feared the entire tunnel could collapse.
This is still an extremely dangerous environment, so we're making it safe for the rescuers in there as well.
This area, Uttarakhand is known for its Hindu temples and has recently seen constant construction in order to accommodate the spike of pilgrims and tourists. The tunnel that collapsed is part of a federal project hoping to connect Hindu pilgrimage sites. But now some experts warn the continuous projects could be taking an environmental toll on the region.
The Himalayan region is very, very fragile. That means we must re-evaluate all the projects that is going on this moment.
What changes need to be made to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
All the construction activity must pass through international standard of safety. We must re-account climate change into the process of planning and management.
As of Tuesday, rescuers seem optimistic and say they expect a breakthrough within the next 2 days. This man's brother is one of the workers trapped. He says he is feeling more relieved and confident his loved one will make it to safety. Ellison Barber, NBC News.
Thanks for watching.
Shut up, Lester. Move to New York. On the border with Canada. Some outlets are calling it a terrorist attack. I am not so sure that is what happened. The FBI is investigating a vehicle explosion near the U.S.-Canadian border.
And good day. We are coming on the air with breaking news about an explosion at a border crossing near Niagara Falls. The FBI in Buffalo is investigating what it is calling a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge, a busy border crossing between
the Rainbow Bridge. I thought that was a euphemism for when your pet died. I didn't know it was a real place. The Rainbow Bridge apparently connects Niagara Falls, New York to Niagara Falls, Canada.
Between Canada and the U.S. The situation is very fluid. Here's what we know according to our 4 senior law enforcement officials that were briefed on the matter. This is video of that explosion that's come into our newsroom. From what we understand, a vehicle crashed into the checkpoint structure at the Rainbow Bridge. You're seeing it right here at a high rate of speed.
That is Rainbow Road.
Caught fire and then exploded. An initial search did not find any indications of an explosive device in the car. I do want to stress this situation is very fluid, and this is just preliminary information that we're getting right now.
So NBC News, and this is 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time, so that'd be 2:30 is when this was updated, when they were reporting on it. Apparently no explosive device found inside of the vehicle, but it is a fluid situation. So I'm not so sure that it was a terrorist attack.
Now, there are 2 casualties from what we understand, 2 people that were inside the car. To be clear, we do not know yet if the incident was intentional or simply an accident. As a precaution, though, several border crossings between Western New York and Canada have been closed for now. The White House has been briefed as well, as the governor of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul, is headed to Buffalo right now to meet with law enforcement and first responders. I want to get right to Ken Delaney, our justice.
That's what I thought, DJ Dub. Fox News has been calling it a terrorist attack. That's what, but they were the only outlets that I saw say. I didn't fucking look at the story. I wanted to do it with you guys here. So that's why, I was wondering if it had been a terrorist attack. I feel like all the other news organizations would have said it. Fox always fucking with their viewers, lying to them.
That Governor Hochul has also instructed New York State Police and the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to monitor all entries into the state of New York. It talks about the severity of the situation right now. Again, all we know right now is there's been an explosion at this checkpoint.
We've got other video, by the way, guys.
All over the world because of the Israel and Hamas war. Also, it is a time where tomorrow's a holiday and people can think that there are soft targets. Talk to us about what your reporting has shown you so far and what we think this is at this hour.
Good afternoon, Tom. I think you're right to caution viewers that this is a very fluid situation. The law enforcement officials I've been speaking to here in Washington say it's too soon to say much of anything about this. But as you mentioned, our colleagues Tom Winter and Jonathan Dietz have reported the important initial finding that there was no car bomb inside this vehicle. The vehicle approached from the Canada side to the...
So my next question would be, Was it a Tesla? No car bomb. Was it a Tesla?
U.S. border checkpoint at a high rate of speed, as you said, and caused a pretty large explosion, which is why there was a lot of speculation initially that there may have been a car bomb. But again, our reporting is that
high rate of speed. Was it a Tesla on autopilot? They couldn't disengage it. I'm serious. Like, if this is not an intentional act, that would be my best guess, would be that it's a Tesla that fucked up.
That there was no evidence of a car bomb. What remains to be known is whether this was an intentional act or an accident of some sort, a medical emergency. All these kinds of scenarios are possible. What's
Bentley
from the people I've been talking to is they're not ready to even use the word terrorism in connection with this incident.
We might see what kind of vehicle it is in the next video.
Nonetheless, they are being vigilant and investigating. I was also told that in addition to the 2 casualties among the vehicle occupants, 1 Customs and Border Protection officer at the checkpoint suffered minor injuries, but that there were no other injuries among the government workers at that checkpoint.
And we should talk about this checkpoint, right? It is a very busy checkpoint. At times, it's open 24/7. It connects Canada and the U.S., but there are multiple other locations, other bridges in this area that have now been shut down as well. And Ken, explain to our viewers, because lawmakers have brought up the issue about the safety of the border, our northern border with Canada, and if it indeed could be at times a soft target.
Yeah, that's right, Tom, because there is concern that there are not enough resources, at least that's what you hear from critics in Congress, devoted to defending that portion of the border, given the crisis on the southern border and the surging of officers and resources to the south. In the north, there is concern that there's relatively fewer staffing and resources around those border checkpoints, and that, in fact, they could be potentially soft targets targeted from people coming in from Canada. And as you mentioned, we are at
blame Canada
threat in this country. The FBI director and others have said that the threat from terrorism, principally lone wolf inspired attacks inside the United States, is as high as it's been in many, many years because of the tensions over the Israel-Hamas conflict. And so, yeah, that the northern border is a flashpoint of concern, as are many other soft targets across the country.
Ken, I want to put up the statement we have from the FBI in Buffalo that appears to be the lead agency right now, the lead field office that's taking care of this investigation. Here's what they posted on X. The FBI field office is investigating a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge, a border crossing between the U.S. and Canada in Niagara Falls. The FBI is coordinating with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners in this investigation. As this situation is very fluid, that's all we can say at this time.
I feel like people who drive a Bentley aren't likely to commit acts of terrorism. But who know? Like, apparently the 9/11 hijackers, weren't like destitute.
And Ken, I want you to explain to our viewers that even though this may have been an accident, and I want to stress at this hour we do not know what this is, but even if this was an accident and it is not terror related, the governor, the FBI, state police, they're not going to take any chances, right? They're going to send all their resources because of the timing right now and because of the importance of this crossing.
100%, Tom, and because this is a national target, it's not just a state or a local matter, so the FBI swoops in right away. I think it is significant, though, that the Buffalo field office is taking the lead and making the statements on this, not FBI headquarters in Washington. If there was evidence of some kind of terror plot here,
could be a heart attack.
Evidence, you may see more of a
could be mechanical failure.
Response, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing the Buffalo FBI, state and local authorities. But you're absolutely right. They are taking no chances here, particularly because the size of that explosion was significant. It may have been caused by a full gas tank, but nonetheless, it raised a lot of concerns right away. Again, our reporting at NBC News is that no evidence of a vehicle bomb was found inside that vehicle, Tom.
Thanks for watching.
God damn it, there's Lester again.
News and top stories on the NBC News app.
I kind of thought he might be coming. Here is surveillance footage that we have of the crash. Whoa. So yeah, let's go back. You can see it. It's back here. It's not even headed for the gates. It's hard to tell because it's so grainy, but it kind of felt like somebody was trying to correct it and had lost control. Wild. And that could just be, you know, camera stutter. No, maybe I was wrong on that. Maybe it's going straight. How them Duke boys gonna get themselves out of this? Apparently a Bentley. I'm not cooking. This is like the first year I haven't cooked for anybody since like 2020. I guess that's not too long. No, I was with Curiouser last year. She did the cooking. Cooking for me. Two people in the vehicle. As I said, you know, a suicide attack is usually just a lone wolf. Some wild footage. We have a witness account of what happened. Let's go to that. So eyewitness account saw the car barrel into the Rainbow Bridge checkpoint.
Here right now that we have some new witness sound from earlier today. The event happened around 11:30 this morning, just before noon. Let's listen to what the witness had to say.
I work for Gray Line, and we're laid off this time of year. There was two witnesses I know, myself and another guy. And I came down to the One Niagara building to see how the sales guy was doing. And I closed the door to my car, and about 30 feet from me, I seen something airborne. I first thought it was an airplane. It looked like slow motion. And I said, my God, it's a car. And it's a vehicle, and it's flying through the air. He hit the concrete barrier, probably right at the signal, God knows how many thousands of feet before the bridge. It went airborne. The vehicle began to turn sideways and went under something overhead, and then it hit something over there. And my prayer was just, please don't let any of the officers, you know, get hit over there. And then all of a sudden, black smoke, no explosion. We all heard, the people in the building heard it, the metal on metal. Then all of a sudden I saw black smoke and then fire. There was no explosion.
No explosion.
Black smoke, and then there was so much smoke, it was unbelievable. After a while, it probably took 5 minutes for law enforcement to
punctured the gas tank, probably.
Exactly what happened.
How fast did you estimate that he was going?
Well, the other fella, the guy that drives the cab, says he thinks he was doing 100 miles an hour coming down this street here. But to me, it was like slow motion when the vehicle was up in the air. And he was just airborne. I can't imagine how it got that high up, so he had to be doing quite a speed for that to happen.
What was going through your mind?
Pardon me?
How were you feeling?
It was like a movie. It's strange because I can play it in my mind very fast or in slow motion. And it's like a movie. I'm saying, oh my. And then all of a sudden I see a vehicle. Looked like an SUV, but who knows what I saw. But it was a vehicle.
It's a blur.
How close would you say it was to where the bridge inspectors would be?
When the vehicle went airborne, it was down by this signal. It hit something like a concrete thing that goes on an angle, and then it went up. It was up in the air, and it started to turn sideways, and then it went in. At that point, I was just praying that it didn't hit any of the Border Patrol officers.
So you didn't
Why?
like strike where their booths are or anything like that? Or?
It went underneath, and then metal hitting metal. That's exactly what I heard. It was metal on metal.
Where were you at the time?
I was right across the street. There's the One Niagara building directly across the street. It was like it was 50 feet away from me, but that's exactly what happened. That car did not get on top. It was airborne.
Were the flames shooting up in the sky?
No, it was black smoke, and then they weren't shooting up. It was like a bonfire or something like that. Then they eventually did get higher. They started out low, and then the flame got bigger and bigger, and then it went down. And by that time, the fire department, then I think they wanted everybody out of the area.
Could you see how many people were actually in the vehicle?
No, I could not see how many were in there. It was just airborne.
I think we all know this guy.
Turned sideways and then hit over there, and at that point, don't let it hit anybody else. So this is the truth.
What did you do after the fact? Were you just standing there in shock?
I'm still a little bit shaky. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Hey, you lived next to me when I lived in Huntsville, the first apartment.
And it's strange because I can replay it.
I fell into a burning ring of fire.
When the vehicle was in the air, it was like it was moving 30 or 40 miles an hour.
There's your eyewitness account of what happened. It doesn't seem like it was a terrorist attack, malfunction, medical emergency. Are those Bentley self-driving? That's a possibility. They get up to 88 miles per hour. Self-flying. Da-doom. Indeed it was. I'm not high enough for this shit. Apparently, we're finally getting a ceasefire in Gaza. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a hostage deal and at least a pause in fighting.
Israel and Hamas agreed on November 22nd to a hostage release deal that will see the first pause in fighting since October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel, and Israel responded with a siege and bombardment on the Gaza Strip. The deal includes...
and we're now learning even more. Apparently, Hamas did not realize that this music festival was going to be going on. Like, this wasn't an attack on that festival. And furthermore, the Israelis killed at least 200 of their own citizens, it seems. And that they didn't just kill their own citizens at the music festival. There were other locations where they indiscriminately fired into a crowd and killing Israeli citizens. Just absurd.
Includes a 4-day pause in fighting and the release of at least 50 Israeli women and children being held captive in Gaza. The deal also includes the release of 150 Palestinian women and teenagers from Israeli prisons, as well as ramping up the entry of humanitarian aid trucks.
Nathan, good evening.
But the deal isn't a full ceasefire. Instead, just a pause in the fighting. A clear distinction Israel and Washington have made since the war began.
More than 100 countries have called for a ceasefire to stop the steadily climbing death toll of civilians in Gaza and to allow desperately needed humanitarian aid to more freely pass into the Strip. But U.S. and Israeli officials have rejected these calls.
A ceasefire now would simply leave Hamas in place, able to regroup and repeat what it did on October 7th.
Washington instead backs a shorter humanitarian pause.
The ceasefire implies some level of permanency, and a humanitarian pause is a pause. It's a pause for a variety of purposes. It can be about getting hostages out and humanitarian assistance into non-combatants, but after that's over, the conflict will continue. When you say pause, you have to ask, is it the entire force? Is it part of the force? Is it across the entire conflict zone, or is it in some areas?
The U.S. rejecting a full ceasefire has been met with protests across the world. Israel has said it's open to tactical pauses, but said no to stopping its fighting outright unless all of the estimated 240 hostages are released.
I would say not all of the 240 are alive.
The U.S. has more and more begun to note its concern for civilian deaths.
As they continue to look at expanded military operations or ground operations in other ways, in other parts of Gaza, they need to ensure that they are safe, that there are humanitarian corridors for civilians, there's protection for civilians.
And we think that their operation should not go forward until those people, those additional civilians, have been accounted for in their military planning.
The restraints on Israeli conduct in the past 5 weeks have been mainly self-imposed. Not much from the...
This dude works for a think tank in Washington, yet he looks like he's a fucking prisoner somewhere. I had to look. He is Hussein Abish, the Arab Gulf States Institute in Washington, D.C. Why did this look like he was being held hostage in some facility somewhere? We've got him down in Abu Ghraib.
Outside, not much from Washington. Now we have seen that changing in the past 10 days, where there was this push for pauses on a daily basis.
But as border crossings remain closed and Gazans still restricted from returning to the north, they now hunker down and can only brace for the fighting to return.
So some form of a pause is going to be taking place. 50 hostages released. It has to do with the pressure that all the protests are being put on, especially here. The U.S. government. Joe Biden seeing his poll numbers drop. He lost Cardi B. So I assume he is putting pressure on Netanyahu behind the scenes.
Come on, man.
To at least give them some kind of theater that they could work with, that they can sell to the American public. Meanwhile, an Israeli history teacher has been arrested and jailed for their Facebook post arresting Jews. We had a whole discussion about Sacha Baron Cohen the other night about a little possum. Apparently, he's a hardcore Zionist. He's been raked across the coals on Twitter for taking the position he has, and some of his shit hits differently now. An Israeli history teacher has been arrested and jailed for his Facebook posts.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please
Thank you, Amy Goodman.
At democracynow.org/
I would subscribe to your OnlyFans, Amy.
/give. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We turn now to look at how the Israeli government's cracking down on Israeli citizens who criticize their government's bombardment of Gaza. We're joined now by Meir Baruchin, a history and civics teacher from Jerusalem, who was recently jailed for 4 days in solitary confinement after he posted a message on Facebook about his opposition to the killing of innocent Palestinian civilians, especially women and children. On November 9th, Israeli police ransacked his house and arrested him. They also seized his phone and 2 laptops. Police interrogated him on suspicion of committing an act of treason and intending to disrupt public order. He was then jailed for 4 days and labeled a high-risk detainee. Baruchin has since been...
I am a huge Amy Goodman fan. I'm also a huge Venus Blood Flow fan. Good evening, Venus.
Freed, but he's lost his job as a teacher and is still facing charges. Despite this, Meir Baruchin has refused to stay silent and is joining us now from Jerusalem. Meir, welcome to Democracy Now! It was hard for us to get in touch with you over the last few days because your electronic devices like your phone were taken. Can you talk about exactly what happened to you? What did you post? And then how did the Israeli police come to ransack your house?
First of all, thanks for having me. When I got to the first interrogation, the interrogators presented 14 posts, most of them before October 7th. There were posts from 4 years ago, from 2 years ago. Only 1 or 2 posts were after October 7th. What I'm trying to do in my Facebook post is this. For most Israelis, Palestinians are really vague images. They have no names, no faces, no family, no hope, no plans. And I'm trying to give them names and faces, introduce them to Israelis, so more Israelis would be able to see Palestinians as human beings. So that's what I do in my Facebook. The police didn't like it, so they arrested me.
And when you were arrested, what was the substance of the interrogation against you during that time, and how were you treated?
On November 9th, I got a call from the police to come over for interrogation.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking as I was pouring my coffee over there. Because he portrayed Palestinians as human. He is a history teacher. He is a Jewish history teacher, and this is not the first Jewish history teacher. Several professors we've highlighted on this show that have spoke out against the genocide in Gaza. If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it, and look what's happening.
On sedition, I called my lawyer, and he said that in order to interrogate an Israeli citizen for sedition, they need an approval from the general attorney. The police did ask for approval, but was rejected. So they decided to interrogate me for intention to commit an act of treason and disrupt public order. The minute I walked into the police...
Sounds awfully fascist to me.
Shackled my hands and legs, and they showed me a warrant to search my house. 5 detectives took me to my house and ransacked the place. Then I was taken back to the police station for the first interrogation that lasted 4 hours. After that, I was taken to the jailhouse. I was, like you said, I was categorized high-risk detainee, separated from everyone. I wasn't allowed to...
High school civics teacher, that explains it.
Something. I spent there 4 days. In order not to go crazy, I exercised every hour and a half, 2 hours. On Sunday evening, November 12th, they took me for a second interrogation, and their technique was, it wasn't really asking questions, it was more of a rhetoric. When you install the answer inside the question, you don't really let the other person choose his own answer. For example, they said something like, as someone who justifies and legitimizes the rapes of Hamas people on October 7th, don't you think that, that was their technique? Also, in my second interrogation, at a certain moment, they said that my Facebook posts are just like the protocols of the elders of Zion. Now, I'm a history teacher, so I asked them, did you ever read the protocols of the elders of Zion? There was no comment. I was taken back to the jailhouse, and on November 13th, I was released by the judge, and still they kept me in the jailhouse for another 3.5 hours.
And what has been the response of fellow teachers in Israel and of the press to your arrest and detention?
Most of mainstream media embraced the statement of the police spokesman who accused me as justifying and legitimizing the rapes committed by Hamas people on October 7th. As for my colleague teachers, hundreds of them are telling me, Mayor, I'm fully behind you, but I have children to support. Mayor, I'm with you, but I'm paying a mortgage. Mayor, I'm with you, but my daughter is getting mayor. Mayor, I'm with you, but we just started to redecorate.
Exactly. That's called the chilling effect. Even if they can't make fucking charges stick on this guy. Nobody wants that to happen to them. And it has a chilling effect throughout society on the speech. It's disgusting. Tones, good evening.
The House, they are afraid to speak up. They are afraid to lose their jobs. They see very clearly that these days, Israeli citizens who are showing the slightest sentiment towards the people of Gaza, opposing killing of innocent civilians, they are being politically persecuted. They go through public shaming. They lose their jobs. They are being put in jail. So they are afraid.
Last week, Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, published an editorial headlined "Arresting Arabs and Left-Wingers: How Israel Intends to Crack Down on Domestic Dissenters."
Pickle, welcome.
In it, Haaretz wrote about your case, saying, quote, "Make no mistake, Baruchin was used as a political tool to send a political message. The motive for his arrest was deterrence. Silence any criticism or any hint of protest against Israeli policy. Baruchin paid a personal price." So, Mayor, if you can talk about the fact that you were fired from your job, you have 4 children, right? And also, how unusual is your arrest and being put in solitary confinement, both for
Comment, good evening,
and for Palestinians?
Well, first, I must admit that the fact...
Starlight, I can answer that question for you. Money. It's money. Capital always sides with the fascists.
That I'm Jewish played a key role in my arrest. Had I been Palestinian, it was completely different. There would have been much more violence from the police officers and also in the jailhouse by the wardens. I think it's a clear message for not only to the teachers, but to all Israeli citizens. One of the newspapermen from Yediot Achronot, Ben-Dror Yamini, he called me a soldier in the service of terrorist propaganda. In those specific words, other newspaper men, other journalists also embraced the police statement without getting my response or without even trying to challenge the police statement.
They took your...
God, I hope he's all over the news in Israel. However, it may just be like here in the U.S. that only outlets like Democracy Now! are the places he's going to be highlighted. And unfortunately, if you're watching Democracy Now!, you're already on the right side, more than likely.
And also your computer?
Yes.
Have you
gotten
it back? They
took my phone. They took 2 laptops. No, not yet. My lawyer is working on it, but the case is still not closed. I'm still facing charges. Also, the Ministry of Education suspended my license, so I cannot go back and teach anywhere in the country.
And what do you tell your kids? We just have 30 seconds, Mayor.
My kids are proud of me, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org.
Tell Jamie. We started off the segment with my answer.
You live in sexual anarchy?
Like a smart, sassy woman. One of the reasons for my admiration of Rashida Tlaib, the congresswoman, is a bastion of intelligent thought in a thoughtless chamber. That's why she needs to be protected. Unfortunately, oh boy. A donor has offered to give a Democrat $20 million if they challenge Rashida Tlaib for her congressional seat. A Michigan businessman offered $20 million in campaign cash to Democratic candidate Hill Harper if he agrees to drop out of his Senate race and instead challenge Representative Rashida Tlaib in the congressional primary, according to a source. A source with direct knowledge of the situation said entrepreneur Lyndon Nelson, who has donated in the past to candidates from both parties, offered $10 million in bundled contributions directly to Harper's campaign and $10 million in independent expenditures. Citizens United, DJ Dub. Citizens United versus... You always hear it just called Citizens United, but the case is Citizens United v. Clinton. It's about a fucking movie made about Hillary Clinton. Oh shit. I said it was a state Senate seat. He's actually running for the Senate. Fucking Slotkin. What movie were we just talking about? I'm high. Did I just reference something? Or did a joke go over my head? Oh, the movie, the Hillary Clinton movie, yeah. So they sued for campaign finance violation because they said it was a gift to like whatever Republican, the RNC or whatever. That's when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of dark money. They didn't have to disclose their donors. It didn't count as a contribution to a campaign. So that's where the unlimited dark money comes from. She sued them. She sued them for campaign violations, I'm pretty sure. Yes, God, what was it? Let's go get the overview. So I don't tell you wrong. Actually, Wikipedia lists it as Citizens United v. FEC. Smokey, would you make up your mind? God damn it, dude. Lay down. I swear he didn't want to lay in bed with me this morning, but no, he wants to be up in my lap now when I'm over here at the desk. Citizens United v. Federal Elections Commission is a landmark decision of the Supreme Court of the United States regarding campaign finance law and free speech under the First Amendment. Court held 5-4. The freedom of speech clause of the First Amendment prohibits the government from restricting independent expenditures for political campaigns by corporations, including nonprofit corporations, labor unions, and other associations. The case began after Citizens United, a conservative nonprofit organization, sought to air and advertise a film critical of then Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton shortly before the 2008 Democratic primary elections. Broadcasting the film would have been a violation of the 2002 Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, which prohibited any corporation, nonprofit organization, or labor union from making an electioneering communication within 30 days of a primary or 60 days of an election, or making any expenditure advocating the election or defeat of a candidate at any time. Citizens United challenged the constitutionality of this law, and its case reached the Supreme Court. In the majority opinion, joined by 4 other justices, Associate Justice Anthony Kennedy held that the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act's prohibition of all independent expenditures by corporations and unions violated the First Amendment protection of free speech. That's where you get corporations are people. The decision remains highly controversial, generating much public discussion and receiving strong support and opposition from various groups. Senator Mitch McConnell condemned the decision, arguing that it represented an important step in the direction of restoring the First Amendment. Commended, I'm sorry. I was about to say, that didn't make any sense. By contrast, former President Barack Obama stated the decision gives special interests and their lobbyists even more power, which is true. So, Citizens United versus the FEC. He commend. It would be illegal for a wealthy donor and a person planning to run for office to essentially coordinate and line up $20 million in financing to support that person's candidacy, said Saurabh Ghosh, the director for federal reform at the nonpartisan Campaign Legal Center. This would raise serious corruption concerns about the candidate being wholly within that one donor's pocket. Thur said Harper declined the October 16th offer, but he declined to comment on the record to Politico about the call. Nelson quickly ended the call when a reporter reached him for comment and did not respond to follow-up requests about the offer or its legality. I do believe Harper posted about this on Twitter, and that's how this came out. Talib, the only Palestinian American in Congress, has called for a ceasefire in Gaza with no conditions. And while that position is gaining support among Democrats, more than 20 from her own party voted with House Republicans to censure her for invoking a pro-Palestine slogan that's viewed as a call to eradicate Israel. Viewed by dishonest actors as a call to eradicate Israel, which I find insane when we are seeing Israel literally eradicate Gaza and Palestine. And this could end up being the issue that decides the next election. And I understand the anger against Biden. I really do. I'm still going to vote for him because I don't think clinically, like, it seems like everything is breaking Trump's way for him to be reelected. A possibility that I didn't think was on the table just 2 years ago at this time. But this is an issue that is really going to depress young people from voting, and Joe Biden can't lose them. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know the answer. I would implore you, if you live, I'll do the same speech again. I implore you, if you live in a swing state, a Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, I would implore you to vote for Joe Biden. I understand. Genocide Joe even rolls off the tongue. I've had right-wingers say it to me. I understand not wanting to vote against him. I totally understand voting your conscience when it comes to your presidential vote. I still implore you to go and vote down ballot. I think you should vote for Joe Biden because the Democrats are far better than the Republicans, and I feel like we can take over the Democratic Party. The coalition of the progressives continues to grow. Once again, the decisions that put Joe Biden in power were made 40 fucking years ago. I wasn't even born when some of the machinations were put in motion that made Joe Biden the president in 2020. Your vote for president is one of the least important votes you're going to cast. I feel like we need to stop Trump from being the president, but I don't think it's like as important as your county elections and your city elections and your state government, which have been overrun by right-wing nut jobs. I think if you really want to make a difference in who's at the top of the ticket, it doesn't happen during that election cycle. If you go and get involved with your local Democratic Party, you'll be amazed at how easy it is to take it over. You get 5 of your friends and you can go take over the Democratic Party. Sometimes there are strategic decisions you have to make to vote Republican. I don't think it is a pipe dream, Richard. I believe in the electoral process. I believe we can take over the Democratic Party because I am amazed at how far back left it has already swung in the last 20 years. And it's because of my generation. The Republican Party didn't used to be this fascist party that it is now. That was a project that started with people who were outcasts back in the Eisenhower-Nixon administration. They were a minority in the Republican Party, and you can go read the history of how they took it over. The Pat Buchanan wing of the Republican Party, as it was at the time. So I've seen it done. I've seen the Republican Party get taken over by the fucking nut jobs. I absolutely believe that the Democratic Party can be taken over by the leftists. But it's not, voting alone is not sufficient. Believe me, I am not advocating that you just go vote harder and that's going to fix everything. Because the fuck it is. You have to organize. We have to unionize. Our campaigns all have to be organized. Unionized. Their mutual aid groups are incredibly important. Donating to legal firms that help poor people is incredibly important. There are numerous facets to this project. It can't just... I absolutely agree that just voting alone ain't gonna fix shit. I also think a lot of people don't realize how easy it is to go move to a fucking small town and take over the government. If you've got some friends, one's a doctor, one's a dentist, one's a physical therapist, you got a couple of nurse friends, go take over a fucking town. And we only use the Democratic Party in order to, I would like to see a parliamentary system. Can we take over the country and Can we take over the Democratic Party and gain enough power to be able to break some of the gridlock that we have and have a more parliamentary system? Remove powers from the president. I'm old enough to remember when the presidency wasn't as powerful as it is now. Can we take it over, make it more democratic, abolish the Electoral College, make it easier for other parties? Can we get libertarians to agree with us on this? I want a system where libertarians will be more represented in government. Banning stock trading. That is something that there are Republicans that would join with Democrats to vote for, banning stock trading among lawmakers. That would go a long way. I want public financing of campaigns. At the very least, some sort of campaign finance reform that limits the amount of money in politics. But overall, I want the public to finance. I think there needs to be a window. You have a window in most countries. You can't campaign 30 days before the election. I don't think there is the will to ban the stock market altogether, but we can certainly rein it in. DJ Dub on the money. These 2-year fucking elections are a drain of resources, and it's just the media fucking keeping that shit alive. Man, I worked for a radio station. They loved election time. The amount of fucking ads they sold. Pretty much made up that was their operating budget for the next 2 years. Ban the amount of They get the weeks between Halloween and Thanksgiving. That's a pretty good idea. Well, we'd have to change election day, though, because it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday. But it would be nice if they didn't yuck our Halloween up. I think reforms can be made. But anyway, that was my rant about the presidency before we're getting ready to talk about one of the third-party candidates that, hey, I understand if you vote for her. Some people say she's a Russian asset. I don't think that to be true, though she's been photographed with some sketchy people. Jill Stein says America needs a third-party president. I agree with you, doctor, but it ain't going to be you.
We're in an all-out state of emergency, and I see the Green Party agenda as really critical.
Jill Stein is hoping third time's the charm, running as a third-party candidate for President of the United States.
Both parties are really bought and paid for by Wall Street. You know, they're big contributors, whether they are bankers, billionaires, fossil fuel barons. They're kind of, calling the shots here, and that's who they serve. They're just out of touch. It's kind of like they're dead. They're sort of like the living dead here, and they're not really responding to the state of emergency that everyday people, working people, find themselves in right now.
When asked whether her 2016 run could have, as some claim, contributed to former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton losing the election in key swing states, Stein is adamant that blame should not fall on her.
No, you should never vote shame people. And also, I don't think that the people that are motivated to vote for Jill Stein would have voted for Hillary Clinton had Jill Stein not existed. So fuck off with that nonsense. If Jill Stein motivated people who wouldn't otherwise vote to come out and would likely vote Democratic down ticket, I think that's a good thing. So fuck off with that kind of nonsense. I don't want to hear that.
Or any third-party candidate for that matter.
I think is extremely offensive and arrogant, and exemplifies kind of what the problem is right there. If you look at the biggest so-called spoiled election, the mother of all spoiled elections, look at the 2010 election when the Democrats lost 1,000 state rep seats. They lost 64 seats in the House. They lost 12 in the Senate, and they lost 13 governorships. Where's the third party to blame it on? Oops, there was no third party. There was no vast third party movement that was taking votes away.
A 2022 Gallup poll shows most Americans identify as independent voters, and they, quote, greatly outnumber Republican and Democratic identifiers.
It's so exciting, having done this twice before, to see what a completely different political era we're in right now. And I think all bets are off, and people are standing up in a way we've never seen. So I'd say hold on to your hat.
Considering Stein is a 3-time veteran of the third-party runs, we asked her what she thought of her competition this time around for 2024. First up, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., environmental justice lawyer turned politician, running as an independent.
The deal breaker has been his position on genocide in Gaza. I mean, for me, that's just jaw-dropping, and it makes it hard for me to go any further.
Next, former governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, a potential no labels nominee.
That ain't happening.
Haven't actually focused on Hogan at this point.
And Cornel West, a scholar and activist who at first said he'd run for nominee of the People's Party, pivoted to the Green Party, and now is running as an independent.
I was helping Cornel West in every way that I possibly could. I've run twice before, so I've had a lot of experience getting on the ballot. There's just a gazillion ways to keep newcomers out and to prevent competition from ever occurring in our democracy. But once he didn't want to run with the party, at that point, I became aware that, oh my God, now that agenda is not going to get on the ballot. In short, I'll say I don't, at this point, want to criticize third-party candidates. They're getting enough criticism already. And truth to tell, I have been very focused on advancing our agenda. And I don't see the other third-party candidates as providing what we need right now.
I mean, out of everybody, I feel like, Cornel West would be the best. Okay, so it depends on what you mean by cheated, DJ Dub. Did they use the power of the DNC? Did they already have were the rules already structured in a way that would try to prevent an insurgent candidate like Bernie? Yes. Did they pull some, like, you know, the whole everybody dropping out on Super Tuesday in 2020 in order to hand Joe Biden the momentum? I don't think it was, like, rigged against him, right? Rigged as in, like, you know, somebody, like, planted ballots somewhere. The whole Buttigieg pulling, like, you know, he won the night that, you know, he didn't actually win. I said it both times in 2016 and 2020, though I'm not on video saying it. Because we weren't doing the troll patrol yet. It had to be overwhelming. We had to overwhelm the system, and it just... Bernie didn't motivate enough young people like we thought he would and had the potential to. The rallies didn't translate as much to the people at the caucuses and the primaries. Because I knew if it was close, they could pull some shit and fuck him out of it. But if it's a landslide, you can't fucking do anything. But I am very proud to have... I've lived through some rigorous Democratic primaries in my life. And I'm proud for the 2 times that Hillary Clinton was in the primary. I did my best to make sure she wasn't the candidate. Succeeding in 2008. Obama was not my first choice. To put you in the mindset of me in 2008. I was early on. I was like, Gore needs to come back, because this is after An Inconvenient Truth and everything. I like, Gore needs to run again. I want him to be he is the rightful president. He should be the nominee in 2008. When he didn't even get into the primary, I switched to Dennis Kucinich. I believe that was the most progressive at the time that was running, and he dropped out pretty early. And from there, like, that's when Obama was surging, and I'm like, all right, at least he's young, at least he's fresh. Yes, like, we have a bias towards the fact that, you know, there is an echo chamber effect. Because one of the things, like, I edited for this podcast during the 2020 election. I was editing for them before COVID and everything happened. And as we're getting into the primary, like, they were all of it. Like, where was the excitement for Biden? It was with, like, their fucking cohort. Who were they? They were all professionals. One was a psychiatrist. One was a lawyer. One was like a fucking administrator at a hospital. Like, and they were like the upper managerial class. You know, they were probably making $200,000-300,000 a year, and they've got their little podcast where they just talk with their friends. And really, it wasn't a political podcast or anything, but clearly, like, we were getting into primary season. I remember one of them like, "Oh, I hate that Bernie Sanders. Ooh, do." And I'm like, why? But we're talking, like, they would have been older than me. They probably would have been, like, you know, early 50s, mid 50s. They were Gen Xers. Affluent Gen Xers. And they were all about some fucking, I think early on they were like rooting on some Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar, but then, like, they totally coalesced behind Biden. It was anything to stop Bernie. Whereas I don't see that, right? Because all my friends love Bernie. Oh, like, fucking Curiouser has, like, multiple, like, Bernie magnets, posters. Because of the roving gangs of Bernie bros, women didn't feel safe. Just like Chris Matthews on MSNBC. What the fuck was his deal? Like, oh, they're going to hang me? I don't remember exactly what he said. But something to the effect of like they were going to hang me in Times Square if Bernie gets elected. That's why Chris Matthews is a fucking contributor still. It's like, what are the... Shot in Central Park is what he said. That's why he doesn't have his own show anymore, but he's still a contributor. I saw him on a clip the other day. Fuck you, Chris Matthews. Hardball. He used to work for, I think he used to work for like one of the Kennedys. They would go out to lunch with Tip O'Neill or some shit. Just Chris. Well, like, I think he said it as him specifically. He would be taken into Central Park. And this was like one of the debate nights, if I'm not mistaken, right, DJ Dub? Ah, fuck, let's look it up. It was Ted Kennedy. I'm gonna have to like watch. Have to watch like fucking Secular Talk and Majority Report here, because I guess MSNBC don't have the fucking clip up. Yeah, post-debate special.
So this instantly went viral for comedic reasons. Take a look.
Sudden change. They've been basically hiding from the tough media questions. They think they catch people that are going to be nice to them, and they get tough questions from them too. Because everybody's going to ask the obvious question about he and his son. It does, you know, when you ask, why's your son got this job over here at X many millions of dollars? Why is, when you got the portfolio for Ukraine, and then he gets the contract for Ukraine, people who have to be mindless not to say, well, what's going on here? It's a reasonable question. I don't think you should ask the Ukraine president to investigate it, but it's a reasonable question. Where there's smoke, people want to know if there's fire. But I think that the Democratic Party has to figure out its ideology. In Britain, we had the Liberal Party. When I wasn't growing up at the beginning of the last century, we had the Liberal Party. They were overtaken by the Socialist Party. Labour became the main threat, the main challenger to the Tories. Churchill went back to the Tories. We know all that. A lot of us know that history. A lot of us will be sorting things out if the Democratic Party runs a socialist candidate. That's a change from the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party's been to the left of the Republican Party on the issue of mixed capitalism. More social programs. They push Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, enormously popular programs. I think ACA, Obamacare has also, which they'd follow through with it and make it work. I think most Americans would be happy to have a public option and have Medicare followed through with. But I don't want to get into I'm on every night. I'll let the Democrats figure this out. I have my own views of the word socialist, and I'll be glad to share them with you in private. And they go back to the early 1950s. I have an attitude about them. I remember the Cold War. I have an attitude towards Castro. I believe if Castro and the Reds had won the Cold War, there would have been executions in Central Park, and I might have been one of the ones getting executed. And certain other people would be there cheering, okay? So
Okay, if Castro was elected as a Democrat in the United States, but implying that Bernie getting elected, he might have been one of them that they shot in Central Park. Oh, he got Me Too'd as well? I don't remember that. This time period right here is right before the start of the Troll Patrol. 4/20/2020 was the start of the Troll Patrol. Fair enough, clinically. I mean, I'm not saying I would stop you. Speaking of elections, the Republicans, and what has been a banner year for Democrats, the Republicans actually pulled out a shocker. An election that took place in Charleston, South Carolina on Tuesday.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Katie Solt. First at 6, Charleston's new mayor-elect William Cogswell is already working on his public safety plan for the city. This less than 24 hours after he won a tight runoff election against incumbent John Tecklenburg. Our Stasia Smalls spoke with him today about the improvements he wants to see. Sid?
Katie, Cogswell says he's already started reaching out to law enforcement to address possible changes and modifications in the city. He says he plans to have
Wasn't this the dude that was the boss on the Jetsons?
a formal sit down with all the major players after the holidays. Running on a platform he says has been smart, safe, and sound to victory.
A lot of excitement, a lot of well wishes, and a lot of thank yous going out because it's been 14 months of a group effort, and obviously we're excited about the results.
Mayor-elect William Cogswell says he's getting right to business. He plans to meet with Charleston Police Chief Cheeto Walker to focus on improving safety on popular roadways.
Public safety is another.
Cosmo Kramer. Yeah, I got it wrong.
Particularly on King Street, making sure that it is a place where locals want to go and hang out. The recent
Basically, space sprockets. Where did I get Cogsworth from? Cogsworth, like the robot. That was the robot butler, wasn't it? No, they had a maid. It was a female. Oh no, it's been fucking 30 years since I watched the Jetsons. I've done a lot of drugs.
Public safety reports are showing that a lot of the efforts that have been implemented, like the lights, the additional police, etc., hasn't been having the desired effect. The crowds are getting bigger, they're younger.
Another big part of his platform, growth and development in the Holy City. Cogswell wants the community to be on the same page with large-scale projects.
A clean and clear plan that everybody
that would make sense
with for Union Pier would be a good one. Sumar Street is something that I'm going to focus pretty aggressively on.
And even though it was a hard-fought race, Cogswell says he has full support of Tecklenburg as he takes over City Hall.
I respect John's service to the city and his commitment to Charleston. But the race is over, and now it's time to come together, break bread, and do what's best for Charleston.
Break bread in Charleston. He has some good food in Charleston. Cogsworth is the clock from Beauty and the Beast. There goes the baker with his tray like always. Oh, was there a Cogsworth Cogs? Yes, Richard. Look at the big brain on Richard. There's a Jetsons Thanksgiving special. I don't think there is. We'll watch it tomorrow. For those of you that might have not been here earlier, I have promised that we will do, we're going to come on at 4 o'clock. It's going to be on Kick and D Live only. We're going to do Thanksgiving specials. Let me give you an example of, damn, I actually have a lot. I didn't think there was that many Thanksgiving specials. Fresh Prince, Bob's Burgers, Cheers, Chuck, Community, Garfield. We might do some Hey Arnold. We got several King of the Hills. Ooh. We're going to watch some Dave Letterman clips. There's a Bundy Thanksgiving special. The Simpsons, Drew Carey Show. The A-Team. The Munsters, Workaholics. I've got a West Wing. I got a West Wing Thanksgiving special. Got the South Park Black Friday special. There's several South Parks. Modern Family. Power Rangers. I've got a fucking Power Rangers Thanksgiving special. Night Court. Sonny. American Dad. Doug. Doogie Howser. Beavis and Butthead. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I got all kinds. I got Friends. Full House. Glee. Mama's Family. We're gonna have to watch some Mama's Family. I got Saturday Night Live Thanksgiving. If we do it the way I did Christmas last year, when we watched Christmas specials, I'll just make a playlist. I'll put it on random, and then I won't even know what's coming on, and we'll all be surprised together. Rocco's Modern Life, regular show. Orange is the New Black, Squidbillies. Tales from the Dark Side has a Thanksgiving special. Motherfucking A-Team. I feel like we have to watch WKRP though. Malcolm in the Middle, the Mindy Project. I'm telling you, I have the greatest collection of holiday specials. I've got Iron Chef Thanksgiving. Got like a fucking. I wonder if this is like a History Channel special. It might have aliens in it. Happy Days. I got a Happy Days. Tell me that don't sound like a blast. That's what I always do. That's my holiday tradition. I watch old specials. Oh fuck, I've even got more. I got more up here I didn't even notice. Got a couple Family Guys. Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment B. Shameless. Bewitched. Ooh, there's a Seinfeld Thanksgiving. All in the Family. Alf. We could even. I've got Alice's Restaurant. Animaniacs. Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Pretty much if they had a Thanksgiving. I do not have any Thanksgiving wrestling. I should do that. It's the U.S. because Britain doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving. We should watch them in order of votes. That's not a bad idea. Okay. You guys tell me, would you rather do random or do you want me to let you vote on specials? We'll have to vote on Discord or something. What do you guys think? You want me to just load up some shit randomly and we'll all be surprised? Or do you want to vote on it and decide what we watch? The Saban people are Zionists. That makes perfect fucking sense. Because what their whole thing was stealing content from Japan. I know they licensed it. It's very true. I'd have to come up with because I only said I'm coming on at 4, and we'll go through usual Troll Patrol time. So you probably get like 6 hours. A lot of these TV specials are like 22 minutes. So ultimately, it's only going to be 7 or 8 different things we'll watch. And if it's Saturday Night Live, that's like a whole hour-long special. There's a couple of hour-long ones in there. So we'd probably do a poll of like 20 things. What do you guys think? Poll, or do you want randomized? I'm a big fan of randomized. That's the way I do my music. That's the way, like, fucking, you come over to my house, I'm fixing Christmas dinner. My playlist of Christmas specials is going to be up, and it's going to be randomized, and you don't know what's going to come on next. It'll go from something incredibly wholesome to some kind of fucking dark comedy. I love it. I love it. Random is my fave, but if a couple of people would agree with DJ Dub, we'll do polls. I'm looking forward to it. I love doing watching Christmas specials. Thanksgiving specials, holiday specials. That's kind of that's how I celebrate. I love TV. I love broadcasting. We might have to do WKRP to start then, to pick a really good one. I may only, and if I do random, I'll have to pick like 20. You know, like, I feel like I gotta have a Bob's Burgers in there, a Roseanne. I'm a big fan of Saturday Night Live. Speaking of, they did a skit to skewer the newly minted Speaker of the House Mike Johnson the other night. New audio has been revealed showing Mike Johnson's controversial views. I mentioned SNL just because they start with the SNL clip.
All right. And your name is what? Mike Johnson. No one's going to forget that. So how did you end up Speaker? No one knows.
SNL mocking Republican Mike Johnson's chaotic path to the speakership. The little-known congressman.
Just so you guys know, Christopher Walken shows up right after that. And, like, Christopher Walken's not being anybody. Like, he's just being Christopher Walken. I think he called himself, like, the Pumpkin Man or something at one point in time. But he was just Christopher Walken.
Being launched into the national spotlight without the normal vetting process. That vetting is actually now happening in real time, and it's not going well. CNN unearthing a series of interviews shedding light on his extreme views. Let's go through it, starting with this. Last year, a month before Roe fell, Johnson compared abortion to a, quote, American Holocaust. Listen, in his own words.
It is truly an American Holocaust. I mean, the reality is that Planned Parenthood and all these big abortion, they set up their clinics in inner cities. They are, they regard these people as easy prey.
That might have something to do with zoning restrictions, property values, the fact that cities are where people are.
Right.
Then there's Johnson's reaction after Roe fell. Recall Justice Clarence Thomas's argument in his concurring opinion that the legal reasoning overturning Roe could also be used to overturn cases establishing rights to contraception, same-sex consensual relations, and same-sex marriage. That's how the New York Times put it. It alarmed many Democrats and legal experts who said Clarence Thomas was laying the groundwork for more attacks on your individual rights. But it didn't alarm Mike Johnson. In fact, new audio reveals that he agreed.
There's been some really bad law made. They've made a mess of our jurisprudence in this country for the last, several decades. And maybe some of that needs to be cleaned up. And what Justice Thomas is calling for is not radical. In fact, it's the opposite of that. We finally have a majority of originalists on the court.
And that's not all, folks. Johnson also claimed that, quote, man is inherently evil and the, quote, radical left is godless. Take a listen.
One of the primary purposes of the law in civil government is to restrain evil. We have to acknowledge collectively that man is inherently evil and needs to be restrained. That's the problem with the radical left. They don't acknowledge a God.
I guess that's why he has...
Fuck your God.
The new audio builds on other revelations, including comparisons of environmentalists to the, quote, devil, and his lead role trying to overturn the 2020 election. Republicans failed to vet Johnson, but the hits keep coming, and at some point it may become impossible for the GOP to look away. Joining me now is Molly Jong-Fast, special correspondent for Vanity Fair and the host of the Fast Politics podcast.
Oh no, not her.
Good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving. Look, let's start with the following. We just went through a litany of Mike Johnson's sound. Are you surprised at all by what is now being uncovered regarding his policy positions?
No, I'm not surprised at all. And I have to say, these are all the things that Republicans should not want in a speaker, because they're all the issues that they keep losing on, these social issues.
She got famous over just snarky tweets, right?
We saw them lose on abortion in this off-year election that just happened. We saw them lose again on abortion in states like Kentucky. So it's interesting to me that they've made a man speaker who is, he's against abortion. He's against gay marriage, right? He's sort of for book banning, don't say gay, all of those laws, which...
I think her hair is just kind of nice.
This guy is emblematic of all of them.
DJ Dub, man, I don't want to be a doomer. You guys know I'm pretty optimistic about things, but poof. The cards are falling just right for a second Trump term, a Republican takeover. This god-awful court that we have. I don't know. Yeah, that Project 2025 document. insane. I feel like they know they're losing. They're losing in the court of public opinion, and that's why they are ramping things up. I didn't even, I've always laughed at Elon Musk buying Twitter and destroying it just because he's an incompetent shit, but like, it does kind of look like he's doing it on purpose, and that it is a specific disinformation campaign. I didn't even think about it as like Twitter is the place where like all the reporters, like they went to Twitter first, like that was the reporter's choice, and now like that well has been poisoned. There are a lot of people that believe in like an accelerationist point of view and everything. I'll point you to like Robert Evans, the It Can Happen Here podcast. He had a point that he made that like usually when violent revolution happens, the leftists don't do too well on the other side. And things aren't usually good for a while. And we kind of have a good thing going. That's one of the reasons why I feel so strongly in like we can save this and reform it. I get the view that like things seem hopeless. I don't want to be a doomer. We'll give you some good news. January 6th rider found guilty after judge calls defense argument where he used sovereign citizen rhetoric. Gobbledygook. Steve Bannon scares me. Like, most of the people around Trump aren't smart. Steve Bannon's smart. That's one of the things that the world would be better without USA as it currently exists. Yes, wholeheartedly. But I think we could be a force for good in the world. I've said it on this show many times. If we had followed through with, the promise of an American dream, like a good paying jobs for everybody, and we actually, had a minimal military that was like a peacekeeper in the world. If we led the world in democracy and provided health care to all our citizens and make sure that nobody goes unfed, I think that would do more to spread democracy to the rest of the world than anything else. Definitely not the barrel of a gun. I want to fulfill what, the American dream means something to everybody, to every different person has a different idea of what the American dream is. But to me, I should be able to go out here, easily get a job fucking anywhere that pays well, has benefits. People are fucking vying for me as well. One of the ways you do that, I believe, is that you offer government jobs that keeps the private sector honest. Because this goes hand in hand. I don't think you should have to go to the DMV and have a bad experience. If that means we pay people to sit on their phones 2 or 3 hours out of an 8-hour workday, hopefully a 6-hour workday or a 4-day work week in my ideal world, we pay them to sit on their phones until there's somebody to serve. That's cool with me. I don't want a fucking line anytime I go in there. So you're properly staffed during the busy time. And then they have a good paying job that they like. They've got downtime. Has good benefits. It causes all the for-profits to have to compete with that sort of a job. Gobbledygook. Gobbledygook. I was leaving a D out. Gobbledygook. Yeah, Richard, I'm with you. I don't want to maintain a capitalist empire. Being educated without debt. K through doctorate. Entirely paid for. I don't understand why. We should want the smartest, most educated people we can possibly have in this country. There should be no impediment to getting an education and bettering yourself as a person. Has the cure for cancer died with somebody who was working in a field somewhere because they couldn't afford to go to college? Not that there's anything wrong with working in a field. If you own a family farm and you want to help provide food, I want to get things back to a local level. I hate factory farming. I want to be able to go down to a locally owned butcher and buy locally sourced meat. And that's far better for the environment. It's far better for your local economy. There has to be some sort of government intervention to break up these companies to make that happen. I'm sorry, I went on a rant again. January 6th rider found guilty after judge calls a defense argument gobbledygook. Taylor James Jonatakis was found guilty of 7 charges for his role in the 2021 attack to stop Biden from being certified as president. January 6th rider represented himself using sovereign citizen arguments. If you guys are not familiar with that, it's shit like when the government issues your social security card, it's in all caps, and that's a legal corporation. That's not me. My name is only capitalized on the first letter. Better for the animals as well. I want to see, I don't want to give up meat. But I want to see the animals that my meat comes from, be treated well for their time on Earth. The food is better, it's better treatment of animals, it's better for the environment. All the way around. I don't know how we get to that point, but we need some sort of policy, and it has to come from the top down that makes that happen. We have to make that transition. It's imperative for our survival as a species. Nix, good evening. Anybody who wasn't here earlier, we're going to do Thanksgiving specials. If you don't have a place to be for Thanksgiving, come eat Thanksgiving dinner with me. I'm having dinner at 4 o'clock. We're going to watch all these classic Thanksgiving specials. I ran down the list. It's insane. Insane. We might do a poll. We might do random. You feel free to chime in on what you'd like to do. Like, I like to just put shows up and let them play randomly. We don't even know what we get. DJ Dub has suggested we do a poll. I can pick like the top. I can pick like 25 things out of my folder. We can do a poll and we'll take like the top 7, 8, 9. We'll go through the usual Troll Patrol time. So hop on in. Watch some Thanksgiving specials together. Gonna be a lot of fun. According to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, John Hawkes came to the Capitol with a megaphone strapped to his back and joined the riot at the base of the southwest staircase when the mob was overwhelming police officers who were forced to retreat toward the Capitol. Now, there are a lot of right-wingers, including Senator Mike Lee from Utah, spouting off about how this was a federal government setup. Sure are a lot of guys not winning in court for this to be some sort of a government setup. You telling me all these guys would be found guilty? All these guys would plead guilty if they weren't? Come on. But that's thinking logically. You wouldn't be a right-winger if you could think logically. Gonna go back to New York, where emergency responders have had a busy day. If you weren't here earlier, a fucking car went airborne and didn't explode. Seems like it punctured the gas tank. There was a giant fire. It might have even hit some sort of fuel that was being stored at the Rainbow Bridge between the U.S. and Canada in Niagara. Also happening in New York today, man is in custody after shooting his super. Apparently fired shots from a window.
Suspected gunman who barricaded himself inside an apartment in Queens is now under arrest after police say he shot the superintendent of his building. When police arrived on the scene, the NYPD says the suspect opened fire on them, forcing police to seek cover and evacuate the building. Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Carlo live on Woodside with the latest. Anthony.
David, wild afternoon here. That gunman is in custody and in the hospital after police say he shot himself. This after an hours-long standoff with cops right outside his apartment door. You had a building full of tenants a day before the holiday. So much more could have gone wrong if not for the help of some high-tech police tools. Heavily armed police officers rushed to this Queens building. Assault rifles pointed toward the 6th floor, where the armed suspect had barricaded himself.
God, I'm sorry.
The man police say he just shot lying on the sidewalk out front.
He's my family member because I live a long time here, this building, and he's like a family member. I say, what happened, super? What happened? He say, call the ambulance. Just 2 words.
Jessie Cower and her husband on the phone with cops in this exclusive video helped their wounded superintendent get away from the building. Bullets then started flying from the window.
Before he started shooting on the 2nd floor, and then he went to the 6th floor. He's shooting on the 6th floor by the window.
It was around 11 this morning. Police entered the building and fired at the suspect, but he retreated into his apartment. That's when armed police vehicles, hostage negotiators, an NYPD drone, and the department's high-tech DigiDog descended upon
the
apartment building as tenants feared for their lives.
They were able to keep that door secure. They used ballistic shields, ballistic blankets to keep people safe.
Some tenants were evacuated, others were not, like this father's 30-year-old daughter hiding in a closet on the 4th floor.
I'm very scared because I don't know what happened, but just, waiting for her.
About 2 hours later, exclusive video shows the suspect rolled out on a stretcher. Police say he shot himself in the chest after cops extended cameras inside his barricaded apartment to get a closer look.
The location was secure. We had the person inside and we were comfortable we had him inside, but we had to worry about other people, bullets going through walls, bullets coming out of windows, and our emergency service unit did an excellent job with their equipment.
And just an intense situation, but police say because of those cameras in the apartment, they were able to see and hear the suspect after he had shot himself. They were able to hear him calling for help. They were able to safely breach that apartment, grab the gun, grab the suspect. Of course, there was a dispute between that tenant and gunman and also the superintendent who he allegedly shot. Police say that is under investigation as far as what that dispute was about. But the good news is that superintendent was in surgery, and we are hearing he's now out of surgery.
Well, fun day in New York. So the dude was shooting at people from his apartment window. I mean, at least it wasn't a book depository window. This is the 60th anniversary of the assassination of JFK.
Well, some of the surviving witnesses of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy are among those sharing their stories as the nation marks 60 years today since his death. Today in downtown Dallas, there are several exhibits and a ceremony honoring the late president. Fox 4's Alex Boyer is there live. Alex.
Hey, Dan, it's hard to believe it's been 6 decades since then President John F. Kennedy.
What are you talking about? You weren't born then. This dude's no older than 40. Hard to believe it's been 6 decades. What, were you there on the grassy knoll with your mom? What the hell?
Was assassinated while his motorcade drove through Dealey Plaza here in downtown Dallas. Now, a couple hundred people have gathered here today at the plaza to commemorate the 60th year since Kennedy was killed. I'm told that there will be a moment of silence at 12:30.
That is the book depository.
5th year since Kennedy was killed.
This is the grassy knoll.
Silence at 12:30 p.m. today. Now, new this year are banners that say JFK was here. They're strategically placed along the motorcade route Kennedy took that day, beginning at Dallas Love Field Airport, where Air Force One landed. Now, each one is accompanied by a historical photo taken by someone who was along that part of the route that fateful day. Now, the 6th floor museum expects to sell out, and general admission tickets have sold out, I understand, that get you into the new
I've heard they won't let you go up to the window because they didn't want thousands of tourists running out every year screaming, "No fucking way!"
Days in Texas exhibit.
Bill Hicks joke.
New archives and items about Kennedy's trip to Texas back in 1963. There will also be flowers in the exhibit to honor the former president. The museum does this every year on the anniversary, but what's new this year is something that they're having called gallery talks. Now, that's where museum employees, they're holding these informational talks that last about 15 and 20 minutes, and they're really special this year in order to mark the 60 years since Kennedy's assassination. And, you know, I've had a chance to talk to a couple people while I've been out here. One gentleman was just 12 years old, had attended the parade here that day when John F. Kennedy was shot. He told me that he's never felt such a high and low on any single day of his life. Dan.
Let's see if we can get some insight from an FBI agent that was there. I'm assuming this dude's old as fuck.
Mrs. Kennedy, and the crowd yells, and the President of the United States.
His job was to protect the First Lady. Clint Hill had been Jackie Kennedy's Secret Service agent since the election.
So to put into context, the thing that you guys would have absolutely agreed with JFK about, he probably was a shit lib, but the thing that he was in, like, he was shocked when he assumed the presidency and found out about all the fucking cooing and all the assassinations, what our spy agencies were doing. He was horrified by the FBI and the CIA, and he came in and he cleaned house. So that's something I'm sure we can all admire JFK for.
Election 3 years earlier. On November 22nd, 1963, Hill was right there with the president and Mrs. Kennedy when they arrived in Dallas.
President Kennedy went right to the crowd, and she would not normally have done that, but...
Oh, he's a Secret Service agent.
Kind of a campaign stop. She did just exactly what he had done and went to the crowd and shook hands.
The presidential car moving out.
Minutes later, as the motorcade drove through the crowded streets of Dallas, Agent Hill can be seen at the back bumper of the presidential limousine, right behind Mrs. Kennedy. Hill says the president didn't want agents too close.
He wanted it to appear that there was nothing between him and the people, that he wanted to have...
As Dulles was one of the ones that he fired.
So please, whenever possible, keep the agents off the back of the car.
And so that's how it was, moments later when the motorcade approached Dealey Plaza.
I had noticed down on Main Street, windows were open on buildings, people were on balconies or on rooftops hanging out. So when I looked at the school book depository and saw that some of the windows were open, it was not unusual. But I didn't see anything in them.
President's car. Seconds later, after turning onto Elm Street, Agent Hill's world turned upside down.
On to Elm Street. I was scanning the left side of the street on Dealey Plaza, and I heard an explosive noise to my right rear. And so I scanned from my left to my right, going toward that noise. When I did so, I scanned across the back of the car. And what I saw was the president grab at his throat and lurch to his left. I knew something was wrong. So I jumped from the car and ran toward the presidential vehicle. Now, there was another shot, the second shot. I did not hear that because I was running. Just before I got to the car, there was a third shot, and it hit the president in the head, causing an explosion to the upper right of his head, and brain material and blood spattered all about, including on myself.
That's Clint Hill at the back of the car with the First Lady crawling on the trunk.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade route. Parkland Hospital has been advised to stand by for a severe gunshot wound.
Mrs. Kennedy at that time had come out on the trunk. She was apparently trying to retrieve something that had come off the president's head and had gone to the right rear.
His brain?
So I was there. So I grabbed her as best I could and put her into the back seat. And when I did that, the president fell to his left onto her lap with his right side of his head exposed. I could see his eyes, they were fixed. There was a hole in his head about the size of my palm above his right ear.
The limousine is now racing toward the nearest hospital.
The entire back of the car was covered with blood and brains. So I turned and gave a thumbs down to the follow-up car to let them know that the situation was very, very bad.
The presidential car coming up now. We know it's the presidential car. You can see Mrs. Kennedy's pink suit. There's a Secret Service man, spread eagle, over the top of the car.
Spread eagle.
Serviceman was Clint Hill.
And so I lay up there in the back of the car, kind of hooked my feet so that I wouldn't fall off. We were going about 80 miles an hour down the Stemmons Freeway.
And you're just covering them at that point?
Just covering to make sure that nobody else could do anything.
At that point, was it pretty clear to you that the president was already dead?
I was quite sure that he was dead.
He says Jackie Kennedy was clearly in shock.
The only thing...
I bet!
Oh, Jack, what have they done to you? What have you done to you? Something to that effect. But she didn't say much of anything.
Minutes later, at Parkland Hospital...
Well, she was holding on to him and wouldn't let him go. And so I said, please, Mrs. Kennedy, let us take the president in the hospital. The problem was she didn't want anybody to see him in the condition he was in. So I took my coat off to cover his head and upper torso so that nobody could see. And when I did that, she just automatically released him, let him go. So we picked him up, put him on a gurney, took him into the emergency room, and she followed.
President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard.
Hill says at the hospital, he took a phone call from Bobby Kennedy, who was in Washington.
So I said, yes, sir, Mr. Attorney General. And he said, Clint, he said, what's happened? So I explained what had happened. And he said, well, how bad is it? Well, I didn't want to tell him that his brother was dead. So I just said, it's as bad as it can get. And with that, he just hung up. So I guess that's how he found out that his brother had been killed.
Hill says he stayed by Jackie Kennedy's side in the haunting hours that followed. 2 days later at the White House, Hill says Mrs. Kennedy asked that he open the president's casket so that she and Bobby could take one last look.
About that time, she turned to me and she said, Mr. Hill, would you get me a pair of scissors? And so I turned and I walked down to the usher's office, got her a pair of scissors, brought them back. I could hear the snip, snip. I knew what she was doing. And with that, she turned. He turned and they left the room and we closed the casket. And that was the last time anybody saw the president.
She takes some clippings of his hair?
I assume so. I did not see it.
The only time Clint Hill got emotional during our interview was when he told the story of John Jr. being taught to salute with his right hand by a Marine colonel at the U.S. Capitol the day before the funeral.
He remembered, and on the 25th...
Jesus, both... I shouldn't laugh at this. So they reference Bobby, and then they reference John Jr., both of whom died. Bobby assassinated at a campaign event. John Jr., plane went down.
Outside of St. Matthews, he saluted his dad.
Were you there? Did you see it? Were you pretty close?
Yes, I was.
It's emotional for everyone, but Mr. Hill, even 47 years later, the thought of this.
It never gets any easier. It's just always right there. It was only until years later when I had a desk job that I had the opportunity to really sit and think, realize, you go over exactly what happened time and time again, that it really started to affect me.
Can you share with us how so?
DJ Dubs.
Not physically, just emotions.
Nightmares, thoughts, why couldn't I do more than I did? I should have been able to react quicker. Should have been able to get there in time to take that third shot myself and not have the president die.
Hill says he stopped feeling responsible for the president's assassination in 1990 after his first trip back to Dallas.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. He would blame himself because he wasn't there to take the third shot. Damn. Yes, also that Kennedy, who is no relation, but should also meet the same fate.
And Dealey Plaza.
I can't wait
That
to
Kennedy.
have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me.
Horrible for that.
I still felt guilty, but I didn't feel like I could have done anything more than I did.
Was that liberating for you as a human?
It was a real release for me. It made my life much better from that point on.
Clint Hill from our interview with him back in 2010, 13 years ago. I am happy to report that Clint is still alive and doing fairly well, lives in Southern California. He's 91 years old. He recently remarried. In fact, his new wife is Lisa McCubbin Hill, who is his co-author on Mrs. Kennedy and Me. They've written a couple of books. And when we interviewed Clint back in 2010, he had not spoken much publicly about what happened in Dallas. He did an interview back in the mid-1970s with Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes, but really nothing much. And then he started wanting to share his story and write some books. And when we spoke to him there in Georgetown, that was one of the first times he really started coming out of his own again and sharing with the world his version of events from 60 years ago. And so we thank Clint Hill very much, and I thank you for watching.
Yeah, it said 47 years when they were doing the interview. It has now been 60. 60 years. Back and to the left. Back and to the left. I am not a JFK conspiracy theorist. I had a professor of history on the Freak Show back when I was in college on the anniversary of JFK's assassination. He answered all the conspiracy theory questions. I told him that's exactly what, I wanted him to do. We're going to come at him with everything. He explained the magic bullet. He explained all the how the shots were fired from the book depository. H.W. Bush was the trigger man. I mean, clinically, exactly. Had a tip and they ignored it. I think Oswald shot him. Did Jack Ruby have some coercing going on? Did the FBI... Johnny Harris actually put out a video. I think it released today. I watched it earlier. And he kind of left it open-ended. But what it seems like is that the FBI and the CIA were desperately trying to cover up all of the shit they had been doing. And they felt like if there was a true investigation into what happened to JFK, it would uncover their attempts to assassinate Castro and their attempts to blackmail MLK. And that they did not want any investigation into all the dirty shit they had been doing. I don't find it implausible that the government might have had a hand in coercing Oswald to do it. I'm open to that possibility. I think Oswald was the shooter, though. JFK conspiracies, fun. Annual Thanksgiving fair. Let's do a little Thanksgiving. Do some Thanksgiving related stories. Macy's has been sued. Company hit with a civil rights complaint from a conservative legal group. Conservative legal group ran by former Trump advisor Stephen Miller filed a complaint against Macy's just before the Thanksgiving Day parade, claiming the company is hiring employees based on race and sex. What a stunt this is. America First Legal, which previously sued Target over LGBTQ products, said in a complaint that the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission on Tuesday that Macy's employment practices have explicit racial and other quotas that likely violate Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. What fucking lowlifes. The Dealers Group cited a 5-point diversity plan drafted in 2019 that aimed to achieve more ethnic diversity by 2025, senior director level and above, with the goal of 30%. Moreover, the retail giant allegedly wanted to create a 12-month program to strengthen leadership skills for a selected group of top talent managers and directors of Black and African American, Hispanic, Latinx, Native American, and Asian descent. AFL, not AFI, they've got a couple of bangers. AFL claims in their complaint. AFL labeled Macy's hiring practices as patently illegal, adding that the company has only reinforced its commitments to recruitment and hiring policies that likely violate federal law. The conservative group is aiming for the EEOC to punish Macy's with a commissioner charge. A letter sent to the company's chairman and board of directors, AFL accused Macy's of mismanagement that threatens the waste of company assets, institutional disregard for and violations of federal civil rights laws, and breaches of fiduciary. Fiduciary is a fun word to say. I have a lot of fun saying it. It means responsibility, like you have a financial responsibility to your shareholders. You have a fiduciary duty to your shareholders. Meanwhile, the legal group outlined the details of their complaint on Twitter, informing supporters that Macy's is denying career advancement to white straight men. Macy's own public-facing materials all but acknowledge that they are engaging in personnel practices that violate federal law, says John A. Zardrozny. An AFL representative said in a statement, because of this, Macy's is now going to have to explain to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission why they're discriminating against white people. Why they've chosen to become a civil rights violator. It is our hope that Macy's takes this opportunity to correct this unlawful and egregious conduct as soon as possible. Fiduciary. That's really how it's said. Tones gave me a correct pronunciation. But also in that phonetical spelling, it's a little douchey. Here's something that's more than a little douchey. Speaking of douchey, Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas pardons turkeys but denies clemency for a man wrongfully imprisoned. A cartridge came out. I don't know where it went. Hold on. I went pretty far back there. I was sitting here just fucking like tossing it up and down and shit. I fidget. I know you guys have probably seen me talk with my hands a lot. Enough for this shit. Oh, did I fuck it up? There we go. Even innocent people need to pay their debt to society. Tis the season for politicians to spend an hour in front of cameras with turkeys. 2 turkeys from a Hormel subsidiary in Minnesota were apparently shipped to Washington, D.C. in a stretch black Cadillac Escalade. That seems like a lot. It was for Liberty and Bell. Joe Biden pardoned on Monday. What a waste. The library in the tiny Texas city of Van, the mayor appointed a bird named Dolly Parton to be a city ambassador. And on Arkansas on Friday morning, the turkey sat motionless on a table littered with fake leaves, while Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders gave a speech granting them clemency. But in the case of Sanders, what might seem like a lighthearted political stunt is much darker when you consider the context. The Arkansas Times pointed out this week, earlier this month, Sanders denied a request for executive clemency for a man with severe developmental disabilities. Remember, this is the Christian right. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Mike Huckabee. Very, very much evangelical Christian. Denied a request for clemency for a man with severe developmental disabilities who has spent 32 years in state prison for a crime he almost certainly did not commit. This is according to an investigation by journalist Radley Balco. Charlie Vaughn was one of 4 men convicted for the 1988 murder of 81-year-old Myrtle Holmes. According to Balco, Vaughn was held in jail for a year and insisted on his innocence before a publicly assigned attorney advised him to confess in order to avoid the death penalty. Vaughn's confession contradicted the facts of the crime, but the judge sentenced him to life in prison anyway, commenting, "I'm sure that some governor somewhere down the road will reduce the sentence or commute it to a term of years." Wow. Decades later, another one of the 4, Reginald Early, confessed to the crime and insisted he had acted alone. As a result, the 2 other suspects had their convictions overturned. But because Vaughn, imprisoned, illiterate, and without an attorney, did not file a claim within a year, the state argued that he could not benefit from the new evidence. Federal courts rejected Vaughn's appeals to be freed. Last year, the Arkansas Parole Board rejected his petition. Vaughn's lawyer told Balco he received no explanation for why the Sanders rejected Vaughn's clemency petition. Unless the Arkansas Supreme Court grants a habeas petition from Vaughn, an unlikely event, his best hope for release from prison is to reapply for clemency in 6 more years. Sanders, meanwhile, is spending her time pushing to expanding her state's carceral system. The morning before her turkey pardoning ceremony, she called on the State Board of Corrections to approve 500 additional prison beds, claiming that Arkansas had weak penalties for violent crime and required space to lock up an additional 2,000 people. If every U.S. state were a country, Arkansas would have the 11th highest incarceration rate in the world. Whoa. If every state in the U.S. was a country, the U.S. locks up more prisoners than any other fucking country. Like, it's a stat that, like, we lead by leaps and bounds. Every state in the U.S. was a country. So 50 more countries on top of the, what is it, 213, 196, something like that. Arkansas would have the 11th highest incarcerated rate in the world. How many countries are there? $195. $195. Hold on. They're not counting. Oh, okay. Okay. They are counting Palestine and the Holy See. Yeah, pardon the turkeys, but fuck humans. That's what would Jesus do? What would Jeebus do? Come on. Let's do some Thanksgiving myths. Gonna do some Thanksgiving myths. Pilgrims didn't invite Native Americans to a feast. Why the Thanksgiving myth matters. Indigenous scholars and activists say that the Thanksgiving story ignores a longer past and future for Native Americans. Here's the whole story. Paula Peters remembers learning about the Pilgrims' arrival in North American elementary school. As the teacher explained how friendly Indians came to help settlers arriving on the Mayflower, Peters was excited to hear about her own history in the classroom. She's a citizen of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. I think I did a pretty good job. I probably got close to that one. Who grew up to become an independent scholar of the history of the Wampanoag, who have inhabited present-day Massachusetts and eastern Rhode Island for more than 12,000 years, according to the tribe. As a kid, I'm thinking to myself, this is great. She's talking about me and she's talking about my history. But her wonder was squashed when a classmate asked what happened to those friendly Indians after Thanksgiving. They all died, the teacher said. Peters remembers being shocked at the erasure of a long history that preceded the Mayflower and the Wampanoag's continuation into today. That's the way that our history was being taught for the longest time, and still is in some areas of the country. The upcoming holiday, known by many as Thanksgiving, but recognized by Native American communities as the National Day of Mourning. Thanksgiving for the white people and mourning for the indigenous people. Yep. Peters and other indigenous activists and scholars are advocating for the recognition of the Wampanoag's true history. They say that must be grounded in the fact that they existed far before and long after the Pilgrims' first harvest feast. I mean, you can't argue with people coming together and celebrating family, good fortune, and being thankful. That's an important holiday to have, Peters says. But it is also a platform that we as indigenous people have to step up and remind people of the significance of our story and the myths that are perpetrated by the Thanksgiving holiday. This is a museum where visitors look over a Thanksgiving meal exhibit at the Pilgrim Hall Museum in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Native American historians have said that there is not much evidence that suggests they ate what is traditionally served at Thanksgiving today, which is exactly what that looks like. Plymouth colonists and the Native American Wampanoag people shared an autumn harvest feast that is acknowledged as one of the first Thanksgiving celebrations in the colonies. This is according to the History Channel. The History Channel says that the Pilgrims invited the Native Americans to the feast, but Peters said that part is a myth. There wasn't an invitation extended to invite the Wampanoag to come and feast with them. It was really quite by accident that there was any shared festivities at all. The Pilgrims were celebrating their first harvest when they fired off muskets repeatedly, a form of entertainment for the settlers. Hearing the blast, the Wampanoag thought it was a threat. The supreme leader, Masowet Usamanaquin, assembled a small and I probably fucked that one all up. Assembled a small army of approximately 90 warriors and approached the settlement, much to the surprise of the Pilgrims. After de-escalating the situation, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag feasted together, though historical texts don't indicate what they might have eaten besides deer hunted by the Wampanoag, as Peter writes in an introduction to of Plymouth Plantation. The contemporary holiday perpetuates the myths of the Wampanoag and Pilgrim relations. It further buries the truth of kidnappings, pestilence, and subjugation, and ignores the scant details of the tense encounter, while it conjures up hallmark images of happy natives and pilgrims feasting on a cornucopia of corn, pies, and meats, including a fully dressed roast turkey. Peters said that the years leading up to the arrival of the Mayflower and the first harvest are just as important as what followed. The Pilgrims were aided by a couple of indigenous men who remarkably knew how to speak English, including a man named Squanto. Really? His acquired tongue was not a miracle, but a byproduct of tragedy. In 1614, he was part of a group of Native Americans lured onto a ship and sold into slavery in Spain. When he returned in 1619, his home village of Patuxet had been ravaged by a great plague. In fact, the settlers who came to that same land had to move decaying bodies to make the village that later became Plymouth. Peters said that story is rarely told and demonstrates an example of the erasure of indigenous histories. That erasure exists in part to gloss over the ugly parts of American history. This is according to Joseph Gaughan, an enrolled member of the Ani Gross Venture Tribal Nation of Montana, and a professor at Harvard who researches the intersections of coloniality and mental health in American Indian communities. That can have an impact. That sounds woke to me.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Intersections of coloniality and mental health in American Indian communities. Sounds like some DEI kind of shit. Watch out, Stephen Miller might sue your ass. We are aware of much more than most people would realize the weight of history and the realities of dispossession, that even though these might have happened centuries ago, they linger on in our relationship to America. So we engage today in a constant tussle with American myths about who we were and who we are in an effort to better imagine the future. Although the Wampanoag and the Pilgrims did not exist as harmoniously as many are taught, many tribal members still take the holiday to celebrate family, Gaughan and Peters said. Jordan Marie brings 3 white horses Whetstone of the Lower Brule Sioux tribe. And is that a title? Or is that somebody's name? Jordan Marie brings 3 white horses Whetstone of the Lower Buell Sioux tribe, or Sioux tribe in South Dakota. I always fuck that word up. I always say it's like Sioux and the Banshees and shit, and Curiouser is making fun of me for that. Started the Truth's Giving Run to bring awareness to indigenous perspectives and issues. Truth's Giving Run. That sounds cool. Check that out. Here's the link in the chat. The virtual 4-mile run was created in the summer 2020 to try to counteract some of the myths around Thanksgiving and the first interactions between pilgrims and the tribes of first contact, said Whetstone, also the founder and executive director of indigenous grassroots organizing group Rising Hearts. I thought that was very informative. I'm glad we read that. I think this has been a beefy show, to be honest with you. Look into JFK, the whole Thanksgiving thing. Got to talk about innocent people being incarcerated. One of the issues I'm most passionate about. Very productive show. Fortunately, 2 people that don't seem like they're going to be productive. Apparently not having Thanksgiving dinner together. There's no Friendsgiving for Daryl Hall and John Oates. Took me by surprise today, and I'm kind of upset. Hall and Oates are embroiled in a confidential legal battle that has led to Daryl Hall getting a restraining order against his former music partner, John Oates. All information about the lawsuit is publicly available as the court documents are sealed. Based on court records, Hall filed an undisclosed complaint against Oates on November 16th, as well as a motion for a temporary restraining order as reported by Philadelphia Magazine. The following day, the court officially issued a temporary restraining order to begin on November 30th. Maybe they are still having Thanksgiving together. The Nashville Chancery Court confirmed the existence of the lawsuit to Variety, but declined further comment because the lawsuit is sealed. As TMZ points out, Hall disparaged Oates on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast. Oh, Jesus. Do we have a clip?
I mean, you have a partner, so it's a little different than...
I don't have a partner.
You
think John Oates is my partner?
You still tour together, don't you?
Yeah, but he's not my partner.
Well,
he's my business partner.
Oh, jeez, look what I've stumbled into here.
He's not my creative partner.
Okay, I'm not trying to... I was just saying, I know that you guys still tour and put out records, so to me, that's a partner. I mean, it's like...
We don't put out records.
When was the last record you put out with him?
I think it was 10 years ago.
To me, that's fairly recent. It's 21st century.
John and I are brothers, right? But we are not creative brothers. We are business partners. We did a lot of stuff. We made records called Hall & Oates together, but we've always been very separate, and it's a really important thing for me.
Well, but you certainly weren't separate on the records, and were you separate creating them? No.
We were separate on the records too.
What does that mean? I'm not hearing the harmony. I'm not hearing what I love about
you know that song "Kiss on My List"?
Of course.
I did all those. That's all me.
So Daryl Hall feels like John Oates hasn't been pulling his oats. Hall then went on to diminish the collaborative aspect of Hall & Oates. Hall & Oates met in 1967, formed their duo 3 years later, and have released 18 studio albums since their 1972 debut. Hall Oates. The pop R&B duo. Pop R&B? Is that what you call that? They boast 6 #1 singles, including Man-Eater, Rich Girl, Out of Touch. Hall & Oates toured together as recently as October of 2022. And they released their latest studio album, Home for Christmas, in 2006. Both Hall & Oates have solo recording careers and have toured separately over the years, but the duo has never officially split up. We've done it many times. Here on the show, what do you guys want to pick? I can't not get out of here without calling the Call-in Oates hotline. Because I am distraught. The Call-in Oates hotline. Available. It is 71926 OATES. OATES. It is the emergency Call-in Oates hotline. Are you guys hearing this? I just realized that it is possible you guys are not hearing this. Yep. I gotta change some shit here. Okay. We are redialing now. You're ringing.
Welcome to Call-in Oates, your emergency Hall & Oates helpline. To hear one-on-one, please press 1. To hear Rich Girl, please press 2. To hear Man-Eater, please press 3. To hear Privatize, please press 4.
If I got to pick, anybody?
Sorry, I didn't get your response.
We are sorry. An application error has occurred.
Oh shit, I got called back
Please check
again.
the debugger link from your Twilio account page for more information.
Oh shit, it hung up on me. Clinically was in first with 2. I think was 2 private eyes. We've done private eyes before.
Welcome to Caller Notes.
We've
your
never done
emergency
one-on-one.
Hall and Oates helpline. To hear one-on-one, please press 1. To hear it go, please press 2.
Been sucking on a lot to be. Oh shit! I'm not sure. I've never had one before.
I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me.
So, if you weren't here at the beginning of the show, let me run it down one more time. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We're going to watch us some Thanksgiving specials. There's a dog on top of the fridge. He just wanted to help with Thanksgiving dinner. I'm going to be going on a hiatus. This is going to be the last freak show for a little bit. Freak show. This is going to be the last Troll Patrol for 2-3 weeks maybe. 4 Eastern Time. It'll be 3 Central Time. It is charging, so maybe that was the issue. I've been sucking on it the whole show. So I'm going to go on hiatus for a couple, 2-3 weeks. Shouldn't be too long till I'm back. Don't worry. Hopefully be back in time for Christmas. We'll go watch some Christmas specials together. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Only on Kick and D Live though. I can't do it on YouTube. They'll get me for the copyright. Kick and D Live tomorrow for Thanksgiving dinner. I'm gonna make my dinner. Gonna have everything ready to go. I'm doing open-faced smoked turkey sandwiches. I got gravy. I got cranberry sauce. I got stuffing. I usually go all out for Thanksgiving, but you know, circumstances I'm kind of traveling light in the fridge in here because having to move out in a few days. It's possible that, you know, somebody's like, I get off here and there's like somebody like, oh, here's $1,500 worth of work you can do overnight, and I'll pay you to like tomorrow. I think everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna work out better. Hopefully, I'm going to a lot better place for a lot less money. I'm living right in the middle of it, and that's my one worry is that the internet won't be as good. I've really gotten used to. I've been spoiled by this fiber optic. It's always possible. I'll get somebody want some work. I can make $1,500, $2,000 real fast. Multiple people have stiffed me. I got this TikToker. I'm gonna have to. If he doesn't pay me by the next time I see you guys, we're probably gonna call him out on stream. I'll show you his TikTok because he's got quite the following. I'll try to clout chase off of him for stiffing me. You'll learn, son. Justin will troll your ass. It's called the Troll Patrol. Here's my drop.
Hey, Justin, are you trolling?
I hate moving, but I don't have a lot of stuff. The main issue is the kitties. That's my only problem. Kitties are like, I always hate traumatizing the kitties, but I think they're kind of used to it now. The fact that 2 of them were strays for years before they got taken in. Yes, that puppy thinks he's a cat. I don't have much shit, but unfortunately, I've got a huge ass fucking TV. That's the biggest problem. I've got such a huge TV that I had to get this like huge dresser drawer, Chester drawers, whatever the fuck you, this gigantic dresser, because you can't get a fucking TV stand for this TV. I encourage anyone. I will tell you that like 54 inch is the biggest they make like TV stands and wall mounts. Like those are standard. Anything above 54 inches, you gotta get fucking specialty shit, and it sucks. Nine pigeons. Wow. I have a friend, she's got like a dog, a cat, and a what's the rainbow colored ones? And it's mean. When I stayed with her, she like kept the bird locked up because she didn't want it to peck me. Kept it in its cage. I was like, I want to play with the bird. I love animals. She's like, no, you don't. He's mean. He doesn't like me. Fair enough. It might have been some kind of parrot. Oh, can't count for shit, eh?
You take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning.
You know me and the math. All right, tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern. Thanksgiving specials. Nobody chimed in other than DJ Dub and said poll, so it looks like we're doing random. But like, if you want to change that, get in the Discord and tell me different. And some fish. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN. We'll see you tomorrow on just a fucking around stream. Enjoy dinner.